Welcome back to Bitcoin Season 2 live stream. That's right. We have 2 pieces of Bitcoin Season 2 content each week on Mondays around midday US time. I do a live stream. You can see I got the topics here listed below. We hit all the metrics. We do ecosystem update, forward-looking stuff, newsletter. And we have our kind of regularly scheduled podcast going out every Thursday. If you've been paying attention, I had a fantastic discussion with Portland Hoddle, the guy who built the Slipstream product for Marathon. That was a Marathon episode, close to 2 hours, where we kind of cover everything in Bitcoin land, specifically like how he designed and operates that particular product for Marathon. Those big inscriptions, those big 4 mega blocks you see, those are things that he has been instrumental in. So then we also have some discussion on broader Bitcoin consensus, some Bitcoin technical stuff, and some Bitcoin cultural stuff. But if you're just now getting here, thank you so much. This is Bitcoin Season 2 week live stream. We got some topics today. Runes are back. There's some big raises in Bitcoin. Saylor seems to be conspicuously maybe like softening his comments on Ethereum. So we'll hit all of that. But first of all, let's just dive right into the numbers. Let's start with the metrics on Bitcoin. I'm gonna go to the classic mempool.space and just take a look at the fees. We can see here fees in the low teens. I've seen them spike up to about low 20s, 30s today, just depending on transaction activity. And we are towards the tail half of a difficulty adjustment. We've got another one in 2 days. If you remember, about this time last week, the difficulty was projected to skyrocket up like 8 to 10%. Well, that's now normalized. So the projected difficulty adjustment is going to be right at 9.9, only up 1% as the blocks are coming in at about 10 minutes. So let's also just take a look at fees. Like, this is a healthy thing to do regularly. We can see here just the amount of transactions like backlogged in the mempool. That's like basically the blocks have to eat through this different strata of transactions in order to clear the mempool and get down to lower fee rates. We see the amount of like transactions that a lot of these nodes have in their mempool is ticking up. So this actually kind of indicates to us that the market for Bitcoin Blockspace might be returning a little bit. I mean, certainly it is returning in runes, and I'll get to that. But let's take a look. And again, I'm just going to jump right into some charts here. This is one of my favorite Dune dashboards. It's from Merch and Amos, or David Merch. Highly recommend. He's a great analyst on Twitter, and now BIP's repo editor in the Bitcoin BIP's repo. This is a chart that I will probably return to a lot this year. This is the transaction count percentage, where we take regular Bitcoin transactions, like normal financial transactions, compare against BRC20 and other inscription transactions, and versus runes transactions. So pink here is regular transactions, green runes. Obviously, this starts April 20th. And the other darker blue are BRC20, and some orange are inscriptions. And we can see here that really, since the halving, the dominant type of transaction on Bitcoin each day is going to be runes transactions. If we kind of squint a little bit, we can see that regularly each day, runes account for anywhere from 60 to 80% of the transactions by number of transactions in Bitcoin per day. In my view, and we can compare this versus just secular transactions on Bitcoin overall, where we can look at here, transactions overall on Bitcoin have been trending down for the past 2 months since the halving. They've picked up a little bit the past couple days, but when I look at that chart and I compare versus this, I just see that activity on Bitcoin overall has been declining since the halving, and because of that, runes, which would normally maybe account for a smaller percentage, actually dominates the transactions by number and type. So this is an interesting observation. We'll come back to that. Let's get into the Ordinals data. So one of my favorite dashboards week to week is Data Always is dashboards. We're at 66.8 million inscriptions. The majority are BRC20. But this chart here, which is the cumulative inscriptions, you can see the kind of rate at which these inscriptions are coming in by this blue line, this moving average. Cumulative inscriptions have dropped down. They've plummeted. Let me get it on the screen here. Have dropped down. If you're listening to this on Spotify or a podcast streaming platform, you can see the chart here, and I'll just kind of describe it to you. Basically, you can see inscriptions taking off by amount February 23. You have a few pulses during May of 23, summer of 23, and then winter of this past year. But basically, since Runes launched, we are seeing inscription activity plummet to only probably under 100,000 inscriptions per day. So right now, runes are the darling narrative of the Bitcoin cycle, or just of like, I would say, things happening on Bitcoin, and it's eating into the demand for new inscriptions. But I mean, I'll also make this point. If we look at this chart down here, which shows the inscriptions by share of type, we can see that whenever fees go down, whenever transaction activity overall goes down, the amount of images as a percentage of inscription type increase. So we saw images like the JPEGs actually count for about half of all inscriptions as of a few weeks ago. Now that Runes activity is picking up, image inscriptions are back down. You might also notice that BRC20s are up comparatively. So even though BRC20s are still kind of playing second fiddle to Runes, we can see here in the fees spent by BRC20 by tier that BRC20s have had a couple interesting events over the past 2 months. Largely, I think, in relation, just driven by speculation on Runes prior to the halving. But I think this is interesting to note that the fungible token ecosystem on Bitcoin does have a particular heartbeat to it. Let's go to the Ordinals marketplace data. We're closing on 600,000 unique users. Again, this is tracked by unique wallet addresses, so it can't be entirely right. We're looking at over 4 billion in volume, and we're looking at the overall volume by marketplaces declining pretty much since it really peaked in early April. So we're seeing it declining, but we've seen a little bit of recovery the past couple weeks. But again, hard to say where that's going. I think the narrative that I want to communicate here is this chart right here. This is the most interesting thing I think happening in Ordinals right now. It's not Runes. It's not like BRC20s. It's not maybe the art narrative. I think it's actually the marketplace competition. So this is a chart from Domo, which shows the different marketplaces across the Runes and Ordinals ecosystem. We can see since the beginning, these different colors represent, you had Ordinals market come out the gate hot. You saw Ordinals wallet also dominate a lot of transaction activity. You saw Unisat really capture a lot of the BRC20 volume. And then OKX, this black section here, really won out almost entirely what I call the fungible token winter of 23, where a lot of the Chinese-driven Chinese liquidity transacted on OKX. But since then, we have seen Magic Eden, this orange category here, absolutely dominate the market. And Magic Eden has historically been more of a JPEG and like conventional NFT marketplace. But really, since Runes, all of the activity for Runes has been taking place on Magic Eden. Now, I will dive into this. Here are the Runes. Let's just go into this. Let's go right into Runes. Genie data is now my kind of regular haunt for quick and dirty Runes info. We have here a rough look at the Runes market cap. Runes market cap has skyrocketed, largely driven by value accrual into the dog go to moon ticker, championed by Leonidas. But we now are looking at like 1.8, close to closing in on $2 billion worth of market cap across the entire Runes ecosystem. Now, Runes market cap is actually a little hard to estimate. I'm getting conflicting numbers from a lot of different places. For example, my favorite Rune's dashboard on Genie Data actually has a different total market cap. This is from Poshi, but I think even though it does conflict here at 2.2 million or 2.2 billion market cap for Runes, it still indicates like Runes are going up right now. The 24-hour volume for Runes is about $10 million. And we can see here the daily volume is had a lot of activity about a week ago, but it seems to be trending up secularly. Going back to this marketplace conversation on where a lot of the volume is happening, this daily exchange volume percentage is going to tell you a lot. Right now, Magic Eden has over half of the Runes volume. Other notable participants are Unisat with about 15% and OKX with about 33%. I think this is pretty significant because we're seeing new players come in from other ecosystems. Magic Eden got their start on Solana, went kind of cross-chain, and then we're an early entrance into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Magic Eden seems to be really dominating here. And then Unisat is a new, if you're jumping in, you're not familiar with the context. Unisat is a new company founded only 14 months ago, and captured a lot of the volume out the gate in Ordinals and BRC20 land. OKX is a tier 1 exchange, and really the first one at scale to integrate Ordinals and Runes. So this is really interesting. So I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to the marketplace game over the next several months. I think that's going to be a very interesting story to watch. Further into Runes, my screen may be cut off here. Again, if you're listening, you can find this streaming on our YouTube and Twitter. Let's just take a look here. Dog Go to Moon is quite literally going to the moon here. It's kind of amazing at the activity. Leonidas seems to have done it to be driving forwards the zeitgeist, which is this AI-generated dog. We're looking at now each dog rune is worth about 12.4 to 12.7. It's trading about 12.4 to 12.7 sats each. So Leonidas also did some basic rough math to look at the aggregate amount of airdrops which went to Ordinals holders into the Rune, which are now transferred into the Runes ecosystem, and it has surpassed in aggregate over about $1 billion worth of airdrops. So this is pretty significant. You also have other tickers here. RSIC, really the first to be listed on OKX. You have Satoshi Nakamoto, a very large holder base, decentralized. We had an interview with Mike, who helped execute the back end of that. Rune number 1, Feihu ZZZ, with a market cap of 2.82 billion. But I'll note here that it's very hard to estimate some of these runes market caps. I think some of the tooling doesn't quite account for the difference between the floating value and the fully diluted value. So if you're not familiar with this, basically you can reserve or pre-mine a bunch of runes tokens, and then you can have some which are sold in the open market. Feihu is a great example of this, where the majority, 90% plus of Feihu has been minted to a sync wallet address, and they own it. There's not been any public communication on this. And the remainder of Feihu, which was a public mint, has now traded up and to the right. But the total market cap of Feihu is estimated, as if the small portion of the public mint were fully diluted across the entire market cap. So I think this is a misleading number for now. Pups World Peace also on there. Waco, the only rune case he's tweeted about, and then some the Donald Trump and Bowden memes also came back. Let's get into the news. We had a lot of raises this week. I think the two notable ones is Babylon Chain, a Bitcoin staking protocol. I will be doing some discussion on this and perhaps some explainers later through Bitcoin Season 2 and Blockspace channels, but they raised $70 million led by Paradigm. This is an idea where you can take Bitcoin as collateral and use it to Bitcoin, the native token, and bridge it to use as collateral for other proof of staking protocols. This they claim accomplishes some things such as reducing the unstaking time and preventing long range attacks. This is an interesting idea. But you have a who's who of like investment here. I mean, you've got Hashkey, Galaxy, Polychain, Bullish, Amber Group. I think not even on here. Like I think Castle Island didn't even make the list here. I think they wrote a check to that. So that's pretty interesting. Another raise this week. It was not announced how much, but Bitcoin Layers. So Bitcoin Layers is a Bitcoin only research company studying like Bitcoin scaling and doing a lot of Bitcoin research, led by UTXO management. Tyler Evans and David Bailey led this round. Bitcoin Layers, I will be visiting a lot. I'm already kind of a power user of this. They're looking and analyzing at Bitcoin sidechain implementations, bridging, and kind of doing a risk analysis of those things. A lot of really good research being done there. Also in the news, Leonidas posted this, but Casey was like, I don't think you can hear this on your screen, but basically I'll paraphrase where Casey went onto the main stage of consensus and said 99% of the projects here are total, complete and utter bullshit, his words. And it was well. So you got to hand it to Casey for being such an independent, fiery personality, so that he goes to one of the largest venture conferences and just tells his opinion on these ideas to the audience pretty straight, and it also demonstrates that the broader audience of these things also can resonate with this statement from Casey. So you do have to like fiery personalities and strong statements like that because they make talking about it pretty fun. Let's see here. Next, I will pull up another Spitfire, Udi Wertheimer, who 2 weeks ago, when the Ethereum ETF was approved, he went back and found some recent statements from Michael Saylor, where Michael Saylor very clearly in the past month says Ethereum will never get an ETF. Ethereum is a security. It's not a commodity. He's like very explicit about this. He's been talking about this for forever. And then a week or two later, just within the month, an ETH spot ETF gets approved. ETH spot ETFs will get approved. And this is kind of a crazy, wild reversal. And then we've seen Saylor on the What Bitcoin Did podcast actually neuter his statements about ETH. In fact, he's kind of conspicuously neutral on it. And he seems to be broadening his language on the subject. So we see here some of the like staunch advocates of like a very particular view of Bitcoin. A lot of their authority and intuition and insight being challenged, and then we see them perhaps responding to it. I don't know where this will go. I don't know if Saylor will soften to ETH. I don't know if he should or if he think he should, but it's really interesting to watch this. I think this is notable to include in a Bitcoin Season 2 update, given that as more of a cultural commentary on the state of modern Bitcoin maximalism. Also in the news, actually, let's just go to what's next. So what's next is migrate your pups. So if you've got the pups BRC20 airdrop or the pups token or the pups token on Solana, you have until June 8th to burn those through the pups tool to then get issued a room. All pups of the three types of different pups claim assets, the inscription, the BRC20, and the Solana token will eventually be burned, and the deadline for the BRC20 and the inscription is June 8th. So we can see here the total market cap of pups is about $150 million. And we can see here that we have not seen a lot of migration. I actually need to clarify that just the Rune pups inscriptions are being burned after June 8th. The BRC20s is not the same. And so the overall migration is only at about 30% right now. So this will be a fun one to watch, and the kind of meme coin king of the cycle, has said, oh, he loves pups. Ghostface Killa just made his profile picture a pups, so a Bitcoin puppet. So you gotta love this. Also, in the what's next is I'll be talking a little bit more about this newsletter that I published through Blockspace. Something is holding runes back, where I talk about one of the structural issues for bootstrapping runes liquidity onto marketplaces. And this comes down to the fact that in the protocol design for runes, it's hard to split runes out and then list them on exchanges. We saw similar structural challenges with BRC20, although I think those were more systemic. Runes is a little bit different in that we see kind of a meta emerging across tickers between the tickers which are able to have dynamic liquidity, where there's lots of little chunks of runes that you can buy in different lot sizes, versus runes where you have giant amounts floored, kind of affecting the overall market cap estimates and price estimates for these runes. So make sure to go to read that. Go to blockspace.media to read that latest. And the last thing, again, this is kind of a runes focused live stream, is I tweeted this earlier today. I want to bring this up that if you're not aware, runes tickers have an issuance schedule. So about every 4 months, a new shorter ticker for runes gets unlocked. And right now, we have 12 character tickers, but sometime in August, we are going to see an 11 character ticker option unlock. And so this is interesting because theoretically, the shorter the ticker, the more mimetic energy it might have, the more memeable it might be, the more resonant it might be. So I think this is an interesting thing to have on your radar and keep an idea for what is next. Anyway, thank you so much for joining the Runes and rather the Bitcoin Season 2 weekly update. This is live stream. This will be available on all your streaming platforms. And make sure to catch the Bitcoin Season 2 episode this Thursday when it drops. Go hit the other Blockspace media content, the Gwart Show, the Mining Pod, our website, Twitter, and otherwise, I will see you all next week.